Ishtar. Ishtar, Ishutaru, class name Archer, ACHA, is an Archer class pseudo-servant in the body of Rin Tosaka summoned by Ritsuka Fujimaru in the Grand Orders of Fate/Grand Order. Ishtar is the goddess of beauty, good harvests, war, lust, discord and fertility in Mesopotamian mythology/Sumerian mythology/Babylonian mythology, one of the many Earth Mothers that inherited the power of all creation from the goddess of Catalhoyukspot Theron in 6000 BC, said to be the most pampered, or rather, the most beloved goddess by the other deities. Her Sumerian divine name was said to be Inanna, and that name is actually her older name. Ishtar is her Akkadian divine name. It means, the mistress of heaven. A goddess of Venus, a goddess who governs over the good harvests that brings prosperity to the people, and even a goddess who rules over war and destruction, she is a great goddess who, among the goddesses, was presented with many rights and authorities from the gods. In Sumerian mythology, she plays an active role as a dynamic goddess and as a goddess who is like the heroine of a story, possessing various anecdotes. Particularly among them, a famous one is her feeding the city of Uruk to a fearsome divine beast called the Bull of Heaven, seemingly an anecdote that caused the city to be on the brink of destruction. In any case, she is a goddess who is a nuisance to others. At any rate, Ishtar is a whimsy deity that is free and uncontrolled, and is also famous for having numerous loves. It is said that she would make advances with all her energies on those who she took a liking to, regardless of those being humans or other deities, and she has many lovers, irrespective of them being from the domain of men or from the domain of the gods. On the other hand, she also displayed a demon-like cruelty towards those who did not bow to her will. She is a deity who was perfected as a deity, one who usually took control and command of things. There is no compromise. The motive for bringing out the divine beast onto the earth was said to be the result of the king of heroes, Gilgamesh of Uruk, having not responded to her temptations. Legend. After Gilgamesh and Enkidu defeated Humbaba, the goddess Ishtar fell in love with Gilgamesh. She proposed to the king of heroes, but he quickly refused because he knew that Ishtar was a whimsical and cruel witch who rendered men useless. Ishtar, enraged by Gilgamesh's insults, clung to her father, the god Anu, in tears, and asked for the release of the greatest of divine beasts, the Bull of Heaven, onto the earth for her revenge. Against this divine beast none could match. Gilgamesh and Enkidu worked together to stand against it and repelled it splendidly. Once again, the goddess lost face. Naturally, Ishtar's rage had not lessened, and she requested death for either of the two of them from the gods because it was a sin for one with a human body to kill the beast of the gods. Ishtar's wish was granted, and one of the two, Enkidu, who was created by the gods, was unable to defy that decree, slowly weakened, and died. Appearance. This form is not that of the goddess Ishtar herself, but a pseudo-servant condition in which a human that has a wavelength close to her own was made into a vessel. Unlike Ereshkigal, Ishtar retains Rin's black hair. However, her true form outside Rin's body has blonde hair. In this form, Ishtar has red eyes and long black hair tied up into twin tails with two black ribbons. On top of her head is a black and gold tiara, along with a golden neck brace and matching, O-shaped earrings. Ishtar's clothing is very revealing, with her top being a white bra that is outlined with gold and exposes a bit of cleavage along with her lower back and stomach. On her bottom is a jeweled black-gold thong. She also wears a black stocking on her right leg that has golden ornaments, with her left ankle having a golden bracelet. Her left arm is outfitted with a black and gold glove that covers her forearm, while her left arm has a golden bracelet around her upper arm. Personality. In Fate/Grand Order, Ishtar has materialized as a pseudo-servant by possessing a human. Since Ishtar is egotistical, she behaves without paying any regard to the possessed human, but her nature is receiving a big influence from the human that was possessed. Originally, Ishtar is both deeply compassionate and cruel, but because the personality of the possessed human is more virtuous, her cruelty has retreated to the bottom of her heart, and her good side appears to have come out ahead of it. Active and extroverted. The goddess of war and good harvests that lives according to her own whims without being a slave to her own fixed position, all while having high intelligence and pride. Ishtar loves beautiful things, hates ugly things, and the things she desires are the things she absolutely takes hold of in her own hands. Even though she is smart, she is impulsive, and sometimes leaves with an unthinkable reckless abandon. In myths, Ishtar is commented by Gilgamesh as thus, Inanna? Isn't she the most annoying goddess in the world? She will destroy something that certainly doesn't need to be destroyed, and she will also create something that doesn't need to be created. If Ishtar becomes ostentatious in this world, then surely in that way, she will invite chaos simultaneously. the root of Ishtar's personality does not have any changes even when materialized as a servant. It cannot be helped that Rin, who is the possessed vessel, almost has the same nature as Ishtar's as well. However, there is one thing that Rin has that Ishtar doesn't. That is, patience. Rin is a hardworking person who is not negligent in her trainings even though she is a genius. She knows patience, which appears to be giving a little influence on this Ishtar. Incidentally, Rin became independent after losing her father when she was very young, while Ishtar behaved like a spoiled child up to the very end towards her almighty father. Ishtar is the exact opposite of Kongming, Zhuge who is identical to her by being another pseudo-servant, in that the human personality, the basis of the possessed human, does not come out to the surface. Ishtar thinks and behaves as Ishtar to the very end. Although she thinks to herself, is it because I am just being a destructive god? Rin's innate goodness is mixed in with that creed as this Ishtar, and the following changes were made. I must be the most beautiful. If there is someone more beautiful than me, I will strive to become more beautiful then. I'll kill anyone who opposes me. If I made someone cry because I went too far in killing someone, I would rather stop then. I'll tolerate anyone who is faithful to me. I will lend my power only in proportion to the faith you have in me. Openly like this, Ishtar's cruelty is held back, and when assessing this as Rin Tosaka, it at least becomes, I became just a little higher than usual. Also, Ishtar herself is not conscious of Rin being her possessed body. I am myself. Whatever human this possessed body was, is now the goddess Ishtar herself. Think of it in this way. Instead of saying this human was taken over by Ishtar, it is rather that suddenly on one day, she became Ishtar as well. Although it openly sounds like she is making light of Rin's human rights, it actually means the exact opposite. Ishtar recognizes that, if Rin Tosaka is Ishtar, then it means Ishtar is Rin Tosaka, regardless if it is from something like whoever is on top, to whichever one of them accepts this current state of things. Although she will absolutely not say this. To say it in a few words, a Tosaka of light, yet a devil. Truly, a red devil from Venus. For Ishtar, the master is a human worth teasing. Although she thinks of herself as someone celebrated, she will never do things such as looking down on someone, including humans, given that the personality of the possessed body, Rin, is her base. She comes into contact with the master with deep affections and friendship, although simply as a toy worth teasing. However, as their bonds deepens, the virtue of taking care of people that she has since the beginning in her emotional weakness, of completely emphasizing with someone, works against her, and they grow from a toy worth teasing into my cherished contractor, whose future is worth watching over. Abilities. Ishtar is considered the greatest of the Sumerian goddesses. As Inanna, the mistress of heaven, she once ruled the heavens in the god-end's place and never lost in a battle of strength. Referred to as a spoiled goddess that obtained all she ever desired, even all of Enki's divinity at one point, she's said to be more impressive than Ereshkigal in terms of raw power. It would normally be impossible to summon her, however, in the Babylonia singularity she's able to manifest as a pseudo-servant by possessing a human extremely compatible with her. As an archer-class servant, her power is logically reduced, however, based on the data Da Vinci saw, Ishtar's incredibly powerful spirit origin is extremely close to the real thing. As such, Ishtar is able to fight against Mash, Anna and Gilgamesh all at the same time while holding back her authority. Should her divinity be reduced to May 7th, her power would become that of a low-ranked divine spirit, however, her bow's destructive power wouldn't decline at all. Only her magical energy. At 3/7 she'd be weaker than a Galu. Despite her raw power being so high, in terms of physical strength she is said to be weaker than Gorgon, who had been empowered by the Holy Grail and Tiamat's authority. She has also been shown struggling against stronger opponents, such as Quetzalcoatl, claiming she could only block her charge one time, or the new 11 offspring. While called a Mesopotamian deity, her image is like that of an invader flying in from Venus to attack the earth. Bibu. Ishtar is always floating lightly because she is not the goddess of earth, but the goddess of heaven. This gives her an advantage over enemies who can't fly, as she'll just fly away in her boat the moment they get the upper hand on her. Therefore, her main weapon of choice is the Boat of Heaven Mana, Ten no Fun Ma Na, which is both an airship and an enormous bow. Mana is the boat of the gods that soars across the Mesopotamian world, and it is also an interstellar teleportation stargate, gate, that connects between Earth and Venus, but because she is a pseudo-servant, except during the occasion of using her noble phantasm, its warp function is normally sealed. Mana was regarded as the fastest object in Mesopotamia, even by Gilgamesh the first time he saw it. Although her bow doesn't possess the overwhelming force of the demonic front, it can still be considered a nuisance. Ishtar can also use a spear, but this time, she is sticking to her act as an archer. Ishtar's major weakness is gems. She lacks golden rules, so despite her love for gems she has no luck when it comes to obtaining them. However, the amount it takes to completely trick her and/or persuade her is usually very high. Skills. Class skills. Magic resistance. A rank nullifies spells of rank A or below. Modern magi would not be able to wound her with magecraft. Gilgamesh's regular attacks aren't even able to graze her despite her holding back her own authority. Independent action. A rank the ability to remain independent for a while even when rejecting the magical energy supply from one's master. At this rank, it is possible for her to remain materialized in this world for a week even without a master. Divine Core of the Goddess. B rank a skill that expresses one being a perfected goddess since birth. It has the effect of preserving the absoluteness of the mind and body. It mitigates almost all mental interferences, prevents the body from growth, and prevents the figure from change no matter how many calories are absorbed. It is a composite skill that comprises the divinity skill. Since she is a pseudo-servant, the skill is only ranked B. Personal skills. Shining Great Crown, a rank a skill that imitates even authorities. A shining great crown that expresses one among the many authorities of the goddess Ishtar, bringing out various effects. Mana Burst, Gem, A+ rank a skill that causes an increase of attack power, done by adding excessive magical energy to one's weapon. Originally, Ishtar's divine energy is practically almighty since she can manipulate it with complete mastery, but perhaps due to the influence coming from her possessed vessel, she became unable to accumulate magical energy on anything but jewels for some reason. It is a powerful mana burst, damage intensification, skill, but because there is the necessary process of charging the jewels before shooting them, its effects will be exhibited after one turn from the skill's utilization. It is somewhat difficult to use. Manifestation of Beauty, EXP the formidable charismatic nature one has as a goddess of beauty. A power to captivate others. Despite being in a state where it can only work as possession, it already exceeds the domain of men. Naturally, it should be a composite skill, gauge absorption, curse, skill ceiling, that works with a powerful seduction effect as its core, but the restriction effects towards others were removed due to the strong inclination of the human possessed by her, and it essentially became a simple charisma skill. This is the reason the rank has dropped so much. Noble Phantasms. Ishtar's main noble phantasm is in Gal Ta Kaigal Shi, the embodiment of her anecdote of trampling down and annihilating the sacred mountain Abi, which was revered and feared even by the king of gods, simply because she was displeased with it. When deploying it, Ishtar warps to Venus and takes possession of its concept by means of management rights, loading it like a bullet and firing it from Mana's magazine as a conceptual planet. Its power is able to completely destroy Tiamat's femme fatale form, whose magical energy core contains 7 times the magical energy of a holy grail and was able to release an amount of energy on the level of a hydrogen bomb. When fighting Enkidu, she's confident about taking them down with this noble phantasm even after they get serious and invoke the true name of Age of Babylon. Although Gilgamesh has no particular high hopes for her assistance against the other members of the Three Goddess Alliance, her Gugalana strike is an entirely different matter. She's not called the most powerful goddess in Mesopotamia for nothing, as with this noble phantasm Ishtar can temporarily summon the Bull of Heaven, viewed as the greatest and strongest divine beast whose power would be enough to destroy the world. As the beast that none of the gods could tame, it is theorized that it'd be strong enough to hold Tiamat's Titan form on her tracks for a day. A lethal weapon that if used could undoubtedly incinerate a city in an instant. In the Babylonia singularity she can't use this noble phantasm due to her other self summoning it instead. Other capabilities. Ishtar's mountain is guarded by multiple demonic statues she placed there. Each one of them has the magical energy of an A-ranked servant. Ishtar is an incredible fast thinker. In what seems to be less than 2 minutes for Ritsuka Fujimaru, she's able to go through an entire psychological adventure for so long that the world could have been destroyed 7 times over. She refers to this ability as Goddess Time.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.